Welcome to Study Time, a televised home learning program produced by Rwanda Education Board.
Hello learners, welcome to TV learning program. I'm teacher Agre, teacher of entrepreneurship. Today I'm going to learn with Senior 2, and we are going to learn about Unit 4, which is the market. And our lesson title today that we shall be studying about, it is types of markets. And our learning objective learners, by the end of the lesson, I expect you to be able to explain the benefits of a domestic market. Now, learners, before I start explaining about these types of a market, do you remember very well what we learned in the previous lesson about the concept of the market when we were studying about the concept of demand and supply? We talked about a market. Now, is there anyone who can tell us what is a market? Who can tell us what is a market? What is meant by a market? What is meant by a market? Someone is telling us that a market is an arrangement where buyers and sellers meet to exchange goods and services for money. That is right. Thank you very much. Now, we are saying that a market is an arrangement where buyers and sellers meet to exchange goods and services for money. Now, we have what we call types of markets. And types of markets, we have two types of markets. Now, one of them is what we call a domestic market or an internal market. A domestic market or an internal market. The second is regional markets. Those are the two types of markets. Now, as we continue, we shall be explaining one at a time. We shall be dealing with one at a time, learners. Now, we are going to begin with a domestic market or an internal market. Now, what is an internal market? What do you understand by an internal market or a domestic market? Now, an internal market, this is an arrangement within the boundaries of a country where buyers and sellers meet to exchange goods and services for money. That is what we call a domestic market or an internal market. Trade that is carried out within the boundaries of the country. Boundaries of the country. Now, within boundaries of a country, trade is restricted within the country. Trade is not carried out beyond the borders of the country. Meaning, the selling of goods and buying of goods, it is within the country, not beyond the borders of the country. Now, this means that a country on an internal market, a country does not export, does not sell its products to other countries, or a country does not buy goods and services from another country because trade is carried out within a country. That is what we call an internal market. An arrangement where buyers and sellers meet to exchange goods and services for money within the boundaries of the country. Now, learners, after knowing about what an internal market is, now, what could be the benefits? What could be the advantages of an internal market? What could be the benefits or the advantages of an internal market? Now, one of the advantages or one of the benefits of an internal market, if a country does not export or if a country does not buy goods and services from other countries, what could be the benefits of an internal market, learners? Now, one of the benefits of an internal market, the first benefit, it encourages domestic production. It encourages domestic production as there is no foreign competition. That is one of the benefits. It encourages domestic production as there is no foreign competition. How does it encourage domestic production, learners? A benefit of an internal market. Now, if trade is carried out within a country, local producers, or local farms and industries are not scared of foreign competition when you compare with the regional market. Now, take an example. If we are importing goods from another country, we are buying goods and services from another country, and those goods that we import from other countries, they are of better quality. These products may outcompete the local products that are produced within the country. Now, our local products will lose market. If they lose market, it will discourage the local producers to keep on producing their products. Now, with an internal market, if trade is carried out within a country, this encourages domestic production because local producers are not scared of foreign competition, which will lead to the growth and expansion of infant industries, all of industries within a country. That is a benefit. That is the first benefit of an internal market. Now, the second benefit, it avoids reliance on other countries. What is reliance? Reliance, we are trying to, it avoids dependency on other countries. If it is internal trade, trade is carried out within a country. I say that with internal trade, a country does not buy products from other countries. Because when we are buying goods from other countries, we are depending on other countries. Now, within an internal market, if trade is carried out within a country, this will encourage what we call import substitution industries. A country will be encouraged to establish industries that produce goods which were formerly imported in order to reduce dependency on other countries. Now, if trade is carried out within a country and the country does not buy products from other countries, this will reduce dependency. Now, like what we call made in Rwanda. Now, made in Rwanda, the country is trying to establish industries to produce goods which were formerly imported from other countries to reduce dependency on other countries. That is what we call an internal market. Because if we keep on buying from other countries, we are importing. We are depending on those countries. Now, with an internal market, since trade is carried out within a country, this will reduce reliance on other countries. That is our second benefit. The third benefit, it eliminates the problem of balance of payment as a country does not spend on imported products. Now, learners, what is balance of payment? Balance of payment, what we call balance of payment, balance of payment. Balance of payment refers to a difference, between a country's total earnings, between a country's total earnings from exports and expenditure on imports and expenditure on imports. That is what we call balance of payment. Now, how do we determine the balance of payment? Now, we are saying that it is a difference between a country's earnings from exports and expenditure on imports. Now, if we get the earnings, because when we export goods to other countries, we sell them and we generate income. We are earning money through selling goods and services to other countries. And when we buy from other countries, we spend. Because when you buy, you spend. That is expenditure on imports. Now, how do we determine the balance of payment? We shall get the incomes that we have received after selling goods to other countries. We subtract the expenses that have been incurred on buying goods from other countries. That is how we determine the balance of payment. If we get the earnings and we subtract the expenditure, we may get a positive value or a negative value. And this negative value that we can get, it is what we call the balance of payment problem. What we call a balance of payment deficit. A balance of payment deficit. A balance of payment deficit or a balance of payment problem. And what is a balance of payment deficit? This is where a balance of payment deficit, this is where the total earnings, this is where the total earnings from exports This is where the total earnings from exports are greater than the total expenditure, are greater than the total expenditure on imports, are greater than the total expenditure on imports. That is what we call a balance of payment problem, or a balance of payment deficit. An example, if a country sells its products to other countries, it has exported. It exported its products. And the earnings that were generated, the earnings that it generated after selling its products, it earned 400 million. That was the earnings. Now, at the same time, a country bought goods from other countries, and a country spent 600 million. Now, to get the balance of payment, we shall get the earnings. This is the expenditure on imports. Expenditure on imports. Expenditure on imports. These are the earnings from exports. Earnings from exports. To get the balance of payment, we shall get the earnings from exports. We subtract the expenditure on imports. We shall get a negative. We shall get negative 200 million. Now, this is a deficit. There is a problem. There is a problem. Now, what brings a BOP deficit? It's because a country spends on importation. That is when a country is trading with other countries. But now with internal market, a country does not import. It does not buy. If a country doesn't buy from other countries, meaning now it will not spend on imported products. This reduces expenditure. And this eliminates what we call the problem of balance of payment. Now, the next benefit of internal market, it avoids dumping by other countries as a country produces the commodities it requires. Now, what is dumping? I don't mean this dumping of dumping wastes into dustbins. Now, dumping here, in this case, dumping, what we call dumping, in order to understand the point, what we call dumping, what is meant by dumping? Dumping refers to the selling of a commodity. Refers to the selling of a commodity at a lower price, in the external market. At a lower price in the external market, at a lower price in the external market than in the home market. Than in the home market. That is what we call dumping. An example of dumping. Dumping is the selling of a commodity at a lower price in the external market than in the home market. That is what we call dumping. That is what is meant by dumping. An example. If Rwanda is trading with Kenya, Rwanda is trading with Kenya. Now, if Rwanda is trading with Kenya, Kenya may dump its products in Rwanda. Now, Rwanda is trading with Kenya. Rwanda is importing or is buying maize from Kenya. Or Kenya is selling maize to Rwanda. Now, in Kenya, they may sell at a higher price. If you go in Kenya, they are selling it at a higher price. But when they bring maize in Rwanda, they sell that maize at a lower price. Now, they are dumping maize in Rwanda. In Kenya, they are selling the product at a lower price, but when they bring it in Rwanda, they sell it at a lower price. That is what we call dumping. And dumping has negative effects because it discourages local production, the local producers, because the local producers will be outcompeted if Kenya is dumping its products, selling them to Rwanda at a lower price. With an internal market, a country does not trade with other countries because what brings dumping is when a country is trading with other countries, like a regional market. Now, if a country does not trade with other countries, it is internal trade. It avoids dumping by other countries as a country produces the commodities it requires. The next benefit of internal market, it reduces undesirable effects like imported inflation, which may result into increased prices of products. Now, what we call imported inflation, learners, imported inflation, inflation, that is an increase, a continuous rise in the prices of goods and services within a country. That is what we call inflation. When prices keep on increasing, a country is experiencing inflation. Now, imported inflation, it is a type of inflation. Imported inflation, it is a type of inflation. It is a type of inflation which arises due to importation, of products from countries affected by inflation. Imported inflation. Imported inflation, it is a type of inflation that originates from other countries. It is imported. It originates from other countries. An example, if Rwanda is trading with Tanzania, let's assume in Tanzania there is inflation. If there is inflation in Tanzania, they are selling their products at higher prices. Now, if traders, if they go and buy products in Tanzania, because Tanzania there is inflation, they will buy those products at a higher price. When they buy them at a higher price, when they bring them to Rwanda, they will not sell them at a lower price, yet they bought them at a higher price. They will have to sell at a higher price. This is causing inflation. But this inflation, it originates from another country, because a country is trading with other countries. Now, with internal market, a country does not import, does not buy from other countries. Now, this reduces undesirable effects like imported inflation. The last benefit of internal market, it eliminates importation of harmful and unwanted goods since they are not produced locally. Now, the importation of harmful and unwanted goods. Now, if a country complies with standards and it does not trade with other countries, this reduces importation of harmful goods. If a country, like in a regional market, if a country is trading with other countries, and there are countries which don't comply with standards, mean a country may import harmful products which may affect the health of the citizens. Now, with an internal market, a country does not trade with other countries. It reduces the importation of harmful and unwanted goods since they are not produced locally. Those are what we call, those are the benefits, all the advantages of an internal market. An internal market, it has some of the disadvantages. There are disadvantages of an internal market. Even if there are benefits, but there are disadvantages of the internal market. One of the disadvantages of an internal market, a country may not obtain products which it does not produce. That is one of the disadvantages, one of the demerits. A country may not obtain products which it does not produce. Now, on the disadvantage of an internal market, if a country is not trading with other countries, because a country may not produce all the products that it requires, that it needs, especially like low developing countries. Now, if a country does not trade with other countries, it will be difficult for a country to obtain products which it cannot be able to produce, and yet those products are needed within the country. The second disadvantage of an internal market, it does not encourage specialization and exchange of goods between countries. Specialization, what specialization, that is the concentration on one type of a product or on one activity that you can do better and leave others for other people. Specialization. You choose to do one. Learners, when you will reach in senior 4, you will be those who will do a combination that involves economics. You will study about what we call international trade and the theories of international trade. Now, one of the theories of international trade, there is what we call the comparative advantage theory. A comparative advantage theory. The comparative advantage theory. The comparative advantage theory, which states that given two commodities and two countries trading together, a country should specialize in production of a commodity where it incurs the lowest opportunity cost. Now, an example, we have two countries. This is Rwanda. Rwanda is trading with Kenya. Both countries are producing tea and coffee. Tea and coffee. Tea and coffee. Kenya is also producing tea and coffee. The theory states that a country should specialize in production of a commodity where it incurs the lowest opportunity cost. Then, if Rwanda is producing both commodities and it incurs less cost to produce tea, and on coffee it incurs a high cost, it is better for Rwanda to specialize in production of tea where it incurs the lowest opportunity cost. Then they forego coffee, which is expensive. Now, the other coffee which is expensive, Rwanda can buy it from Kenya because they are trading together. Now, with an internal market, it is difficult for a country to specialize because it is not trading with other countries based on this principle of comparative advantage. If a country, like an internal market, a country will produce a variety of products because it doesn't trade with other countries. Now, specialization will be difficult, which is a disadvantage, and specialization has its own benefits. The next point, the next disadvantage of an internal market, it leads to wastage as surplus products cannot be sold to other countries, especially agricultural products, which are perishable, which cannot be stored. Now, it will lead to a wastage. An example, if, like in a regional market, if a country is trading with other countries and a country produces in excess, there is overproduction, where the quantity supplied is greater than the quantity demanded. Now, an example, if Rwanda produces like 200 tons of maize, 200 tons of maize, and locally within the country, it sells 150, there will be a surplus of 50 tons. 150 has been sold within the country, but the 50 tons, if a country could be trading with other countries, it could dispose of the 50. The 50 which is surplus could be sold to other countries to avoid the wastage, to avoid wastage. Now, it will be difficult for a country, if a country is not trading with other countries, it is internal trade, it will lead to wastage as surplus products cannot be sold to other countries, which is a disadvantage. The next point, the next disadvantage, consumers may acquire expensive products which they would have acquired cheaply from other countries. Because consumers don't have any alternative, they are forced to buy local products which they are expensive because there is no competition with the foreign products. A country does not import from other countries. The cheaper products that could have been bought from other countries, the consumers will not have a chance to access those cheaper products because there is no alternative. There are no foreign products which are cheaper. Now, consumers within the country will be forced to buy local products which is expensive, and this will lead to high cost of living, which affects the standards of living of the citizens. The last disadvantage, it leads to loss of revenue, since taxes are not charged on imported products, which can be used for development of the country. Learners, in Unit 5, you will study about taxation, about taxes. There is what we call, one of the types of taxes, there is what we call custom duties. Custom duties. Custom duties, these are taxes levied on imported products and exported products. If we have traders within the country who go to buy products from other countries, when they bring those products will be charged taxes. And when they are charged taxes, the government is generating revenue. But with an internal market, a country does not buy, does not import from other countries. Now, if we don't import from other countries, taxes will not be levied on these imported products, where a country will lose revenue that could be generated from imported products, which can be used for development of the country. Those are the disadvantages of an internal market. Learners, I expect you now to define what is an internal market, and be able to explain the benefits or the disadvantages of an internal market. What could be the benefits of an internal market? What are the disadvantages of an internal market? Before I end my lesson, I would like to leave you with the homework. And it is one question. As you're writing the question, I can just read through the question. Now, the question, a farmer is looking for a market to sell her tomatoes. The farmer is looking for a market to sell her tomatoes. Explain the benefits and disadvantages of selling on a domestic market. What could be the benefits and the disadvantages of a farmer who wants to sell his or her tomatoes within an internal market? The reference, you can refer to a book which is Entrepreneurship for Rwandan Schools, Students Book 2. I expect you to do that question. Thank you for being attentive. It has been an interesting topic. We shall meet in the next lesson. Thank you.